I'm reading a book right now, and I want you guys to hear the preface of a part of it because it kind of explains why people won't let go of the Idaho 4 case due to the lack of physical evidence that was left at the crime scene, okay? From BK at least. The book that I'm reading is about several cases, 25 cases actually, of people who were framed for crimes that they didn't commit and spent years and decades of their life behind bars. If you've never been to jail, then you don't understand. Until you're locked into a little tiny cell room, you can't leave, you can't get a drink when you want, you can't do anything when you want. You're literally in a tiny little box. I want you to just imagine that you were just minding your own business, going to college, doing whatever, going to work every day, and then all of a sudden you're swatted for a crime you never committed, okay? That's what I'm trying to say here. Often the real killers were under the nose of the police from the outset of the crime, and in 2 cases they were the star witnesses for the prosecution. DNA played an important role in several cases, but not in most. Perjury by police and civilian witnesses was pervasive in these stories. These convictions were not caused by unintentional mistakes by law enforcement or misidentification by well-meaning eyewitnesses or honest but erroneous forensic analysis. No. They were rooted in law enforcement misconduct and chicanery, men and women hell-bent on clearing cases or gaining conviction through a wide variety of illicit means, subornation of perjury, secret deals with criminals in exchange for their fabricated testimony, coercing witnesses into false testimony or suspects to falsely confess, use of discredited or inept forensic analysis, suppression of exculpatory evidence from the defense, or other acts that obstructed justice and resulted in the ruination of innocent lives to the relief of the actual perpetrators. Each of these stories takes the reader on a roller coaster ride, most of which end with truth and justice ultimately prevailing, although at great and unimaginable personal cost to the exonerees and their loved ones. Once freed, the released face the formidable challenge of starting life all over again. It is a testament to the human spirit that so many of them have the will and capability to do so. Unburdened with the anger and hate of the years of the past, now filled with the forgiving heart and an enhanced appreciation for the everyday things of life that most of us take for granted, and a desire for peaceful and quiet existence. Doesn't that last part kind of sound like someone? Just asking. Stephen Avery, Christopher Tapp. Stephen Avery literally got framed for a crime he didn't commit like 20 years before he got exonerated, or however many years, right? He gets out. The state's supposed to pay him a bunch of money, and then instead of paying him, there was a unaliving that they figured out and said he did it. What in your right mind makes you think that somebody's going to spend all them years in prison for a wrongful conviction and then get out and commit an unaliving? Be freaking for real. Christopher Tapp did 20 years from 1998, 20 years past that. What's that, 2018? So he did all that time. He gets out, and do you know what happened to him? He gets unalived because he was supposedly selling rugs to the dude's daughter, and then the dude unalived him. So neither Stephen Avery or Chris got paid. I know, it's such a messed up thing that it's hard to comprehend. But if you were sitting in prison and the only thing that they had from you was touch DNA on the button of a knife sheath, they didn't say it was on the inside flap of the knife sheath. You know where it would be easy to transfer a DNA onto? Something flat, like a button probably. Think about it. If he had a knife sheath, don't you think that it would have had excessive amounts of skin cells on it if it was actually his knife sheath and he used it and carried that knife with him all the time? Just think about it. They just so happened, that's like saying they find one fingerprint at a crime scene where a pizza delivery driver delivered a pizza. That's literally like what that's saying. Was BK the person that was out that night driving around delivering food? I don't know. I wasn't there. But if there was other male DNA that was actual red stuff, then why would they choose to ignore all the red stuff that was there where somebody possibly had a weapon and may have cut themselves while committing the crime and just use the DNA from the button of a knife sheath? Think about that before you go to bed tonight. And thank God that you're free and you have your freedom. I was in jail for not even a day. It's not for me, baby. I sit my ass at home. I don't drink. I don't party. I don't do none of that. You know why? Because that little 20 hours or whatever it was of losing my freedom was more than enough for me to learn that I never wanted to lose it again. So if you've never lost yours or been in a situation like that, then you don't know why you would plead guilty, because they told me mine was like a DUI and just some other small crime, okay? And it wasn't a crime. It happened while I was in the jail, while they had me literally handcuffed to a wheelchair. My hips were broken. It was horrible. But anyways, imagine that too. Imagine being literally handcuffed to a wheelchair and not being able to move at all. They literally told me, you can either say that this happened the way that we said it happened and sign the plea agreement, or go do 5 years in prison. What did you think I was going to pick? I signed that I was guilty so I could keep my freedom. Brian signed that he was guilty. That's not a confession. That's signing admitting guilt to avoid a death penalty sentence. Because if anything ever happened and something happened in the investigation, or if possibly someone came forward and was honest later on in the investigation, he could get his freedom back still. If he literally took the DP, he wouldn't be able to even get that. Do you understand why they make that the ultimatum, life or death? You don't have a choice. You can't get out of there. Once you're in their custody, you can't do anything. Literally, but get a lawyer. So think about that.